Well, hello. Welcome back to Brick Clips. And we got just another great show for you guys today. I'm with Anthony Baldino from United Clay, and we're going to talk a little bit about New Jersey, and we're going to take him back in time and kind of bring him up to time what he did today. So thank you for being here today, my man. I sure
Well,
appreciate spending time with us.
my pleasure to be here.
Talk a little bit about your beginning into the brick industry. What kind of brought you into it, and maybe a little bit of flavor with the family history with your dad, and that might be
Sure,
cool.
sure. Um, I grew up with my dad being in the retail masonry business, and worked as a kid during the summer breaks and high school and college, and got out of service in early 1958 and started United Clay Products in October of 1958. So we've got just a couple of months ago celebrated our 50th anniversary in the business, which can't believe we made it.
Oh, that's great. Now, in the service, Army, Marines,
I was in
or
the
combination?
Army. Those days the draft was still alive and well, and we were drafted and wound up taking basic in Fort Dix, New Jersey. And then first time probably on an airplane, first time out of the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey, wound up in Colorado Springs and Fort Carson in the mountains, the Cheyenne Mountain, and it was great. That was through 56 through 58, and it was great to go back. The BIA, or of course at that time it was probably Skippy, was prior to BIA. It was the Skippy was called Skippy. So they had their brick convention at the Broadmoor Hotel, which was in the mountains right above Fort Carson. So it was good to go back.
Nice. Now, did you make it overseas?
No, that was my Fort Carson and Fort Dix. That was it. And then got out in '58 and soon after started in the brick business.
Nice. Now, what about a little bit about your dad in the business? Tell me about your family now. Tell me what's your family makeup right now. Let us know.
Right now, my son, I have 3 children, 4 grandchildren. My son Michael is the president of United Clay Products, and Michael's been in the business 8-9 years. And I have a daughter Beth who's in business, and she has two children, which part my 4 grandchildren. And I have a son Patrick who's worked in Wall Street in New York, and we live in still live in New Jersey, and I have a winter home in Florida, which we spent some time in Sanibel, Florida, beautiful Sanibel, and we're living in New Jersey all these years. So New Jersey's our home.
You know, it's funny. I want to take you in to talk to you about some brick and some brick jobs, but something that you shared with me before, an interesting character, an interesting person that you actually knew or met or dated was Martha Stewart, and
Yes.
you knew her as Martha.
Castyra.
That's
Yeah, well, right about when I got out of the service, I had a cousin living in Nutley, and where was my hometown. And next door was a lovely young lady by the name of Martha Castyra, who later became the famous Martha Stewart. So Martha and I dated for a while, and then she went off to New York to do some modeling, and later brokerage business, and then she married a man by the name of Stewart, and therefore kept the name, and that's the Martha Stewart story.
And we see her on TV.
Oh,
She's at Kmart.
yeah.
She's involved in all that kind of
She's
stuff.
an
So
amazing woman, and she's been very, very successful with one little.
she had that bump in the road.
She had the bump in the road.
But she handled that well and came through that. That's amazing.
She came out. She came out of that and came right back. It was a setback, but now she's back, and I guess as strong as ever. And she's still writing some books, still has her TV shows, and she's just involved in a lot of things. And amazing young lady.
Well, I'm glad to see that there could be mistakes and you still could rebound and recover.
Absolutely.
Gives us all hope.
You know, at the time, too, it was such a minor thing, and it just because of who she was. I mean, so many people have been caught, and it's with inside information, and it was not a big deal, but because of who she was, it became a national story.
They want to make an example,
And
and
an
all of that
example,
goes, yeah.
So that was unfortunate, but thank God she's back on the road.
Tell us about what brick lines do you guys carry?
We carry Glengarry, Watsontown, Summit, Lakewood, Triangle, etc., etc. We have plants throughout the country and have had different represent different manufacturers, and we do sell some stone too. We sell Eldorado stone, and we now, our operation now also involves a retail operation. United is also between architectural sales and retail, so we sell a full line of material, and we have 5 locations in New York and New Jersey. Yeah.
Who calls on you for Glengarry?
Young man by the name of Jack Lubin.
Jack, great guy.
Jack Lubin, yeah. Jack's.
I go way back with Jack.
Yeah, Jack Lubin's a fine young man, and he always embarrasses me every time we meet someone and Jack is with me. He starts telling the story of how his first day on the job, his first job was to come see me, and so he said that was his first call. And,
oh, that's great.
He said that was. He said he later found out it was a test. If he could get by, he could get by a session with me, he would make it in the business. And Jack came in. He was a nice young man, and he's been a long time. I say he's in the 20s, close to 30, maybe 30-some years in the business.
I was with Glengarry for 17, and I think I've known Jack almost all of that. Of course,
Right.
I met you back in the Bigler days when I was a distribution manager, so we go back quite ways back too. That so Matula, so you see Ray Matula every now and then.
Yes, Ray is our regional manager, and
now he's vice president now.
Vice president, and Brennan is the regional manager. So yeah, the Glengarry people we see quite often.
Actually, I got some great Ray Matula stories, but I'm gonna let that stay right now.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure,
Ray, I'm gonna save you. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all known Ray and had some fun experiences. My best times with Ray were on the golf course.
Oh, I didn't know. I did not know.
Ray's quite a player.
I didn't know that. I know Ray Staub, an awesome golfer, but I didn't know about Ray Matula. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Ray.
No,
Staub.
Ray Matula.
Matula. Yeah.
Yeah, does Ray Matula golf? Do you remember? Or no?
No, I don't think. I think Ray plays, but he's not the player that
Ray Staub is.
Ray
Oh, I
a
know.
great player. He's now in his 70s and occasionally breaking 80, which is quite an accomplishment.
I can't
shoot his age.
I can't ever imagine it even happening.
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
can't.
Yeah. Well, if you live to 100, I'm sorry.
I could. Yes, you're right.
I couldn't resist.
110,
that.
maybe 110.
Yeah,
I
couldn't
can
resist
do
that.
it.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize. You can cut that. You can cut
no,
that.
absolutely no. That's fun. Tell us about a great brick experience or a great brick order or your biggest brick order, something like that. What do you got?
Well, I guess I've told this story maybe once too many, but in the business, I've always felt that never leave an opportunity to sell brick, and you never know where your lead is coming from,
Right.
or the situation. It could be a phone call, it could be, but my best story, as far as where a brick order comes from and how it develops, was I was out looking to match a job, and I couldn't find the particular job I was looking for. And as I'm driving, I see 2 gentlemen standing on the side of the road, and I decided to pull over, roll down the window in those days, because this was 1961, and I asked the gentlemen if they could help me find this street, which they did. And I had a station wagon loaded with brick samples in the back, so I guess he noticed the samples, and he said to me, "What do you do, kid?" And because I'm in my 20s, young 20s at the time, and he said, "What do you do, kid?" So I said, "I sell brick." So he reaches in his jacket pocket and he hands me a card, and he said, "I need some brick, give me a call." I threw the card on the dashboard, thanked them, and off I go. A couple of weeks later, I happened to be in the area again, and it's just so hard to believe that this is a real lead and it's going to amount to anything.
Right.
I mean, you figure the guy needs a couple of brick for his bookcase. So, but being a brick salesman,
And you actually had loose brick in the back.
yeah,
and strap
you had the
brick.
brick,
You could have done it right there.
So, I followed up the lead, and it was crazy because when I get to the location on the card, it's this absolutely disastrous building, and it looks like it's falling apart. So it's not a very good impression, but I still decide to follow up, keep going, and I go into the building, and it's an empty house, basically, and using it as an office. And there's a young lady sitting at an old broken down desk, and she says to me, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I'm here to see Mr. Sam Kotz, and tell him I'm the fellow that asked him the directions a couple of weeks ago." And he said to stop by. So he says, "Hold on." She goes in. "Oh yeah, he'll see you." So we walk in there. Still in my mind, I said, "This is going to be a dead end, and it's not going to amount to much." But follow it up. Get in his office, and we start talking a little bit about what he was looking for. He's looking for engineer-sized brick and red. In those days, you know, it was a lot of red brick. And so he said, "Do you have some samples in the car?" I said, "Yes." Go back out in the car, bring them in, and then show him a couple things. So I love that. Points to one. He said, "I love that," and doesn't even ask a price or anything. He just love that. And he says, "Come on, come with me." He brings me in another bedroom.
So you're getting a
Empty bedroom.
specification on your first visit. No
This is-
multi-trips. No nothing.
No. This is a boom, boom, boom. This is the second time I've met the man. We walk into his other bedroom, and there's a drafting board with these sets of preliminary drawings. This job is like not even in the Dodge reports yet, so there's no competition. No one knows about it. And he shows me a set of plans, and this is a humongous housing project with maybe 142 buildings, all needing brick. And winds up, to make a long story short, it was $1,800,000 brick, and it was just that easy. And I've worked harder for orders of 5,000 or 6,000, but the lesson to be learned here for young people is, never walk away and say, he only needs a few brick, or I don't think that's much, or because you never know where that is going to lead. And you could sell someone a cube of brick, and the next time they walk in, they need 100,000.
Okay.
Because you treated them right the first time. I mean, it's happened many times in my career, repeat business. And which brings me to another thing about experience and about being around time. I tell my young salesmen and stuff, and you always think of a sale. It's not this particular sale; it's the sales that are going to come after it.
By building a relationship, right?
By relationships. I am now basically on the third generation. When I started, I was dealing with a gentleman who might be an architect or a contractor, and he was in his 40s or 50s, and I'm in my 20s. And we built up a relationship. We did some jobs, and then another job, and sooner or later, this guy retires. But his son takes over the business. Now, the son was my age, and so then we went through a long period of time. And now this son now retires, and I'm now dealing with the grandson of the original.
Oh my.
Yeah, so there's companies I'm now dealing with the third generation, and the same relationship is carried because you did business with my father, and my father always said,
yes.
father always said, if I needed brick, to call Tony Bricks. And one little story, if I might tell you, was a customer recently called me, and he said to me, "Mr. B," he said, "can you come down?" He said, "We're putting an addition on one of the local schools, and he said, if you come down, maybe you can help me identify the brick." So I said, "Sure, fine." I said, "Sometime tomorrow I'll get down to you." I said, "By the way, what's the name of the school?" Mentions the school, and I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "I know that school." And I said, "I know the brick."
You
Tell
sold
me
the
the name of the
original.
brick. Sold the brick 20, 30 years prior.
That's great.
So I tell him, and he said, "That's amazing." He said, how do you remember that?" And I said, "Well, you remember certain jobs." I said, "But what made this job unique was your grandfather. Your grandfather called me, and we went over, and he had a little connection with a friend on the board who helped us get the specification, get the brick selected. And the day that we got the approval, he invited me back to your house, and his house, which I understand that you were born in. And I said he had made some homemade wine, and he took out the provolone and the salami and the bread, and we started drinking. And I'm a young man, and we had a little bit too much wine, and I had to sleep over because I was I had too much to drive home. So he said, "That's an amazing story." So he said, "We're in, right?" He said, "Yeah, we can still get the brick." So I said, yeah, your grandfather was a wonderful, wonderful man. And he said, Mr. B said, I never had the opportunity. He had died before I was born.
Oh.
And I said, well, you certainly missed on a great experience. And I said, your dad's great, and your grandfather was just as great. So
Oh, man.
that's talking about being in the business for all these years. A relationship like that you dealt with the grandfather, now you're dealing with the grandson. It's a great feeling.
Well, let me take you back when you're back in this guy's house, or his old house, or beat up house, or whatever.
Sure.
You're back and you got there. You find out what kind of project it is. What kind of project is that again?
It was a school.
No, not the school.
Oh, the
house.
house.
The guy that gave you the card, and what was that project?
That was housing. It was rental apartments, and they, like I said, it was over 140 buildings of.
And how many brick were that?
1,800,000.
Oversized.
Oversized brick units, yes.
That is. I just. You know, we had Bill Deal tell us about the million brick order. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I might have wrote an order for 300,000, 400,000, but not 1,800,000.
Yeah.
Oversized.
Yeah.
That's over 2 million PE.
It's amazing. It's
over
amazing.
2 million
I've
PE.
never done, and I hear it's taken me another 48 years and I still can't match it. It's the biggest single job I ever sold.
Oh, that is.
But
just
what made
amazing.
it is
But
the
just
story.
the contact,
Is the story.
yeah, just out of nowhere.
I mean, if I told you a story, I sold 1,800,000, and I worked an architect for 2 years, and then the mason
Battled the
contractor.
competition.
Jesus, you know, it was not that. The story is that I asked directions.
Well, the fun part about that, then compared to today, we cannot sell a brick job today and get it specified because we got to resell it and resell it. Because just we're spec'd, even spec'd by ourselves, by the time the general or somebody gets involved, now they want to look at other brick and they're starting to play the price game with us. Now our price is not good enough, or I'll buy your brick, but if you can match this other price, we have to resell today.
It is a tougher situation. Plus the fact that years ago, when you work with an architect, their specs held up. If an architect would specify a brick, there was a good chance that brick was going to go on a project. The architects were stronger in those days.
They were, and there's still a few around, but not.
Yeah,
not as many, though.
The big firms will hold fast to their spec. So that's the brick we want. We designed the building. This is the brick. This is the color we want. A lot of the younger architects today, they just cave to the competition. Someone will come in and say, well, you know, there's also laws. I mean, they have to consider an equal, especially if it's a public job, public funds. And they have to consider an equal. So, yes. But even with that, the good architects will say, no, it doesn't match. I mean, it's very close, but it's not exactly what we want. But a lot of times, the contractor says, hey, I can buy this for $10 a thousand cheaper. And the architect says, well, go ahead. It's close enough. So, it was easier in the old days because if you did work architects, and the specs held. And today it's, and especially in times when the economy is slower and there's not as much work, price becomes a bigger factor.
It does.
I mean, 2 years ago, we're here in '09, 2 years ago, most of the contractors weren't asking price. The big question is when can I get the brick?
When can I get
the brick? And you know, can I get this in 6 weeks? Can I get it in 8 weeks? The price was not the main. Today it's I don't care when I get it because they know they can get it tomorrow. They want to know what the best number you can come up with.
Well, and that's what I love about being in Jersey, because the first thing they say to me, okay, you can't get to me for 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, forget about that. No, I don't want to talk about that anymore. What else can you get me?
Yeah,
you know, a couple years ago, it was kind of fun. Now you got to try to find something else that's available. But let's go back. Do you remember the brick manufacturer in Brick?
Hazelton Brick.
Hazelton, Pennsylvania.
Hazelton, Pennsylvania. There was a little plant in Hazelton, family owned. Very nice family, the Campbell family, and the typical situation, the son, the brother, the family who was the plant manager, was all family. And they probably made 14 million brick a year.
So you're talking about a lot of production, a couple months.
Oh, God, yeah. It was almost too big for them.
Did they have to make it in different spots, or did they make it all one run?
No, we made it several different runs. I mean, fortunately, the job did, you know,
well, yeah, you're not going to make 2 million brick. Yeah, and it's apartments.
And they certainly couldn't have made that many brick in one shot.
Oh, they did. Everybody else forget it for a while.
Yeah, they made several 100,000 brick, and then they'd stop, and then we'd go through those and make another couple 100,000. Today, I guess some of these plants could run 1 million brick with no problem at all in a couple of days.
And how few
ballgame.
people. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I talked a little bit about Watsontown Brick Company. They added
Yeah.
a molded
Yes,
line to it.
yes,
and
they have.
I don't remember what the number is, but for the capacity what it could put out, the number of people that they added to production was a small number. I don't know if it was 9 people or whatever it was. I'll have to, if we see Brian Cleary, we have to ask him what
Brian
that is.
would
but
be able to tell you
he's
that.
a great
Yeah.
guy
We went
too.
out
Brian's
to
a
the
good
plant.
guy.
We saw the new operation. It's a work of art. You know, the high tech. You know, the robots, all the work. It's probably the newest molded plant been added to the brick industry in a long time.
And if it's similar to what Glengarry has, that's going to have a major impact to what Glengarry does, especially
Absolutely.
market share tight to begin with. You take any, that's going to make a hurt. And then you have all the new plants coming up in Indiana.
Especially with this economy. Probably a couple of years ago, we could have absorbed this into the system.
I would have thought so.
Without much effect. I mean, both plants could have been sold out. In this economy, it's going to be a crazy thing.
Because you used to have the old Palminic plant that was right not far from
sure,
you. I mean, you used to have
yeah.
that was a molded brick, correct?
Yeah.
Did they do wet mold too? Did they do a water struck at one time too, Palminic?
I'm not sure, but there's a few plants still making up in Vermont. There's a few plants still making water-struck brick.
Who are they? Do you remember?
I think it's Vermont Brick is one plant.
I'm not familiar with those guys at all.
Yeah. And they sell a lot of stuff on some of the universities, Harvard and Yale. You know, have a lot of water-struck brick.
Okay.
And of course, there's fewer and fewer people making handmade brick, but you know, the original handmade. But you know, that's another part of the business that slowly, because of cost, now the handmaids are much more expensive. But you know, talking about the plants and old plants, I just recall a great story. A few years back, Triangle built a new plant, and my son and I were invited down to the grand opening. And so I think it's a great brick story. So we're down at the plant, and we've been through 100 of them. You know, you invite the plant manufacturers, invite you down to see the new plant. So we're walking through, and of course it's a marvel. The place is
really clean.
It's clean. You can almost eat, the old saying, you can eat off the floor. And it's just all automated. And they got a couple of guys working a computer, you know.
Right.
And so we were walking by, and then about 3/4 of the way, we had seen enough. So it was a group that was going through. So we sort of broke off from the group, and we're heading out of the kiln, and we're going to get some coffee. And the owner, who's the Germans, German family, owned, who I think are like 5th generation of brick people, own Triangle.
Okay.
From Germany, and he and his son are just walking to join the group, and we're sort of walking out. So they introduced themselves, and I'm telling them, naturally, this is fantastic, great, congratulations, great plant. And I said, I just got to tell you this. I said, my first day in the brick business, we mentioned Hazelton Brick. My first day, that was my job. They sent me to go out and see how the brick are made.
Absolutely, perfect thing to do. Yes.
So I go out to Hazelton, Pennsylvania, and of course it's an old plant, and the dust is this high on the floor, and the heat.
No respirators or nothing. Everybody's just filthy dirty.
I absolutely couldn't run a plant today. I mean, OSHA would.
Oh, it'd be horrible.
Oh my God, the OSHA would be all over you. But the dust is in the air. The heat is intense. The kilns don't have the insulation, and of course they used to open up the kiln doors and let the heat come out, where today you have the chambers and it's recycled. So the place is unbearably warm, hot. And I'm telling the Germans this story and how bad and dusty and how unhealthy it was. And he said, oh yeah, he said, I remember when I was a kid and my grandfather, so he's telling me about their history in Europe with the plants. But the point that I wanted to make was, he said it was so bad in these plants that when someone would commit a crime, they would go before a judge in Germany, and the judge would find them, if he found them guilty, would say to them, you can do 30 days in jail or 30 days working at the brick plant.
Oh no.
And he said most of them picked jail because the brick plants were such a terrible place to work.
Yeah.
I assume somewhat similar to the mines, you know, with the black lung disease. And, but to imagine where we've come, where they were that terrible place, and the amount of people that they took. I mean, I guess that plant, which probably, like I said, about 14 million brick, probably had about 60 people working there. And today you go through these plants that are making, you know, 8 times as much, 100 million brick. And there's what, 6, 7, 8 people, working in the plant.
Well, with Triangle, there's actually 2 plants. You walk from one plant, you go to the next, and they just had trucks coming in. I was there a few years ago, but how clean it was. No people. I mean, when I was in Hanley, we had over 100 people.
Well, Hanley's an old
and we did 30, 40 million at that time.
Hanley was an old plant, and still is. I mean, but it's been fixed up and renewed.
It really has.
But at one time, the Hanley plant was a disaster when you went out there. And but now it's a better plant. They make some beautiful.
I was there. I worked there in the 80s. Worked in the plant.
Now they're making great brick. I think as good as anybody. But like I said, probably before your time, when I was out there at Hanley, it was an old plant. I mean, but now they've made great strides.
And
so
got much cleaner and all that.
Proud of that plant.
They do, and Glengarry wanted to get the plants cleaner, looking nice for towards that. They did that there too.
Yeah. It's one of the better architectural plants in Pennsylvania.
It is, and they still do the glazed brick. They got Elgin Butler and Glengarry and that Hanley plant. That's about it as far as making glazed.
I'm glad Ray. I hope Ray appreciates the plug.
You got to want to do that. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk some more with Anthony. Hey, we're back, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. It's an honor for me to be here and be here with Anthony. So how about some stories? How about some even off-the-shelf stories, not even brick-related?
Well, my 2 passions are brick and golf. And I guess a good golf story is I had the great fortune of playing with Hall of Famer Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle.
Do
you have a baseball card? Do you have to have a baseball card?
I wound up with a putter that Mickey signed, and a couple pictures that he signed that day. It was a crazy thing. Again, how these little things pop up. But Mickey was working for the Claridge Hotel Casino in Atlantic City, as did Willie Mays and a couple other celebrities. Okay. They were hosts for the casinos. Joe Louis did Caesar's Palace in Vegas, and they always had celebrities that would bring in the crowd. So Mickey was working for the Claridge, and a friend of mine called me one day. I was in the office and I was very busy, and as if you're a golfer, you always get these invites and you have to turn them down. So he called me and he said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" So I said, "Don't even think about it." I said, "I'm busy." I said, he said, "Can you play golf?" I said, "I'm telling you, Tommy," the fellow's name was Tommy. I said, "Tommy, I'm telling you, I am absolutely snowed under. Golf is not even a consideration." He said, "You got to play tomorrow." I said, "Tommy, are you listening to me?" I said, "We're not playing." He said, "Too bad, we were playing with Mickey Mantle." I said, "What time do we tee you up?" So the limo, they sent a limo up for us. Well, actually, the story was, he and his brother were supposed to play, and his brother was an attorney and had a court date, and the judge wouldn't let him out of the thing, so he needed a substitute, and that's where I came in. So they sent a limo down for us. Yeah, we sent a limo down for us, and we go down to Atlantic City, and the night before, and so we were having some fun, and next morning, down in the lobby, we meet the casino manager and Mickey Mantle.
Amazing.
Now, I mean, this is like,
Stick me with a pen.
Oh my goodness. So we drive out, get in the limo, drive out to the golf club, and we're going to play. And I sort of said to myself, listen, I said, these guys, they've seen this a million times. Everybody says to them, hey, I'm your biggest fan.
Sure.
So I figured, I said, I'm going to play a little different. I'm going to treat him just like he's just one of the other guys. And, which worked out very nicely because he had a lot of fun. And I guess some of these times when they're entertaining, it's very tight situation. So we immediately start to bust, what we call bust, kid around.
Sure.
And joke around. And so he and the manager want to play a money match.
Oh, no. And
so my friend Tommy, who brought me down there, was a pretty good golfer, and I'm decent. But so we said, yeah, we're not going to back away from a match. So they want to play for some considerable money. So we still say okay. And we go out, and like I said, I wasn't much of a golfer, but as the golf gods deemed, I parred the first 3 holes and birdied the 4th hole. With that, Mickey Mantle says to me, and uses some bad language, "Where'd you get that handicap?" He was not happy that I was playing so well. So that sort of started it. So then it was, you know, through the whole round, it was back and forth. You know, does your wife play when you miss a putt, you know, a short putt or something? So we're kidding. And Mickey told some great stories. One, which I'd like to share with you, was as we're hitting the ball, and naturally, Mantle can hit it a mile and, you know, off the tee.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, "Oh, Jesus, Mike, that's a great drive." And he said, "Oh, it's nothing." He said, "You won't believe it." He said, the longest hitter." He said, "I play with all the pros in the celebrity pro-am things." He says, "I play with all the pros." And he said, "You won't believe the guy that can hit the golf ball further off the tee than anybody I've ever seen." And, you know, we're all saying, "Okay, who is it?" And he said, "Roger Maris." We said, "Roger Maris, we never even heard of that he played the game." And he said, "Oh, he was the worst player ever." He said, "But no one could hit a golf ball further than Roger Maris off a tee." What inner strength that he must have had to not only be a great home run hitter, but to be able to hit a golf ball further than the pro golfers.
That's amazing.
But Mickey did kid around about that he wasn't much of a golfer after that. After the tee, then he was in trouble. But I had always thought that he and Mickey had, Roger and Mickey had a little friction there because of the year that they were both going for the thing. But he spoke very highly of Roger Maris and very fondly. So as far as I was concerned, those stories which you hear were untrue. But of course, the other part of the day was the drinking. So Mickey did live up to his reputation, and we stopped after 9 holes, and I did one, I swear to you, and Mickey probably did maybe 4 martinis between the 9th hole and 10th.
Oh no!
And the casino manager could put him away. My friend Tommy was a pretty good drinker, but Mickey was the champ. And we played another 9, and that's when I wound up with a putter because Mick missed a putter. And a short putt, and he threw the putter into the woods. So we said, "Well, come on, we'll find the putter." He said, "No." He said, "I got so many of them, Tony." He says, "Forget about it." He said, "I got another putter in the bag." And later, after we played, we went back to the bar, and they started drinking again. So after I had another, my second, I said, "That's enough for me," and borrowed a cart and went back out to find the putter.
Nice.
And that's the putter that I brought back, and when I offered it to Mick, his head, "Mick, I went and got the putter." So he said, "No, you keep it." And I said, "Well, you sign it." So I got a signed Mickey Mantle putter.
Yeah, because that putter can't make short putts, so you want to keep it on a shelf signed.
Oh,
use that one.
yeah, no, I'm not going to play with that. And he told us a lot of great stories. If you have the time, I'd like to tell you one of them.
Sure.
He had said a couple of weeks before that, it was his wife's birthday. And I've never read this anywhere else, so this is a story that many people know. I don't think many people have ever heard. But he was at dinner with the family. It was his wife's birthday, so they went to in Texas. They went to a local restaurant, and they're having dinner. And a drunk came up to the table just as the food is being served. Drunk came up, and he said, "I'll do my best drunk act." He said, "Hey, you're somebody." He says, I know you're somebody. I don't know who you are, but you're somebody." So Mickey's telling us the story, and he says, I turned to the guy, and I said to him, no, you're mistaken, sir. I'm sorry. You know, I'm nobody. But the drunk insisted, no, I know you're I've seen you. You're somebody. I don't know your name, but you're somebody. So Mick says, he denies it again. I guess, right, denied 3 times. And finally, Mick said, I figured, well, this is not getting any place because the guy won't give up. The food is here. And the maitre d' comes over. He's trying to pull this guy away. And Mick says, well, I know what I'll do. I'll tell him who I am and sign an autograph, and the guy will go away. So he says, look, you got me. He says, I'm Mickey Mantle. And the guy says, who you shitting? Mickey Mantle's better looking than that. Turns around and walks away. And Mickey said, we just couldn't stop laughing. The guy said, who you shitting? You're not Mickey Mantle. He's better looking than that. So I thought that was a great story.
That is. My closest I got to Mickey Mantle was I wasted the baseball cards clipped going through my bike spokes. You know, we did that sound or whatever.
Didn't most of us do that instead of putting them in a
Never
safe
thought of
place
it.
and making all that money. Huh?
Never thought of it.
Save our comic books, save our baseball cards.
But I was able to save. My mom had saved my comic book collection I had
Oh, good
back
for
in the early
you,
'70s.
yeah.
Put in a tank. When she passed away about eight years ago, I went and found this case. It said light bulbs. It was awful heavy. Locked, padlocked. We had to break the lock, and we were gonna pitch it, throw it away, open it up, and it's saved for Donnie. All my comic books in this big trunk.
So you didn't tell me you were a rich man.
They're probably not worth more than $3 or $4 each, but still, they got some value and some meaning to me. So I put them away for the kids.
Absolutely,
In the future.
the sentimental value is priceless.
Well, and then my kids, we get to put them in sleeves and protective cases. What do you do? How do you cover up, keep the light from them? And it was protecting that case, no light. So the color, everything was great. I took them through and got a value on them. So something to have fun with, and they got to be a part of it. And my son Logan's like, hey, maybe we should read these. I don't know if we want to read too many of them, but we did a few, so it was kind of fun. But how about someone coming into business today? How about, what would you recommend or suggest?
Well, I think one of the things, first things you have to realize, it's a great opportunity, it's a great industry. As we all know, it's brick is the oldest product known to building product known to mankind. And there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction in doing a good job, selling a building, and then years later driving by and saying, hey, I did that building.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. And the good thing I would say to any young person, the good thing about this business is that if you're selling brick, you certainly can show your worth. If you do a good job, it's in the numbers. And like a lot of jobs, you can be the best, but nobody knows it. They don't know just how good you are because there's no measuring stick.
I agree.
You're a draftsman, there's 20 other draftsmen in the office. You happen to be the best, but the boss doesn't know it. He knows you're good, but he doesn't know you're the best. And he's paying you the same he's paying the other 19 draftsmen.
You're right.
If you're in this business and you want to make money and you want to work hard, you can show your worth and be compensated accordingly. So it's a great opportunity. It's a great business. I would say to any young person, go for it. It's certainly been a great thing for me. The 50 years that I've spent in this business, I couldn't. If I had to do, like I say, I had to do it all over again, I think I'd go back to the same place, except maybe be a professional golfer. But now the brick business is a great place to be.
How is it a little different today than it was back then? Do you see a difference?
Well, one of the things, one of the things is that you were dealing with a lot of mom and pop operations. A lot of the manufacturers were family-owned, small businesses.
Right.
And today, it's down to a lot of the big corporations,
a
few, and big corporations. So there's not the relationships that there were. I mean, there's still a lot of the manufacturers today have very good people working for them, and you can build some nice relationships. But there, you were family.
Yeah.
You were actually family. You dealt with a plant, like I said, it was owned by a family, and you broke bread together, and you were at their house, and they were, you knew them. Just you went to their kids' weddings, and it was.
And brick's a relationship business. It just is. Yeah, it just
absolutely, absolutely. It's all about relationships. It's all about contacts, because in the end, all the brick look alike from a distance, from across the street. So it's you selling, making your contacts for a young person, and I mentioned earlier. Don't think about this particular job. That you're selling this particular job. You're selling your future in the business. If you're going to be in the business 20, 30 years, this job is going to lead to another job and another job and another job. And this relationship with this architect, this developer, this contract is not about this job. So always try to do the right thing.
Yep, no matter what.
Do the right thing, and it'll pay off.
Because if you can get trust with relationship, boy, it'll carry you over. And maybe it's only 5,000 brick or 500, but he knows you took care of them.
Right. And
he comes back to you later on.
And if you're going to stay in the business, which if you're in it, you should be planning the long term, it's going to pay off.
Yeah, it
will. So that's a good advice too.
That is.
Do the right thing. Don't try to get a few more dollars sometimes than the job is worth, or don't fib about some delivery date or something like that because you want to try to get in order.
Right. Yes. And then pay the price later.
Be truthful. Remember. And it'll pay off, because if the guy knows that he can rely on your word it's priceless.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
That's priceless stuff. My
Thank
man,
you very much.
thank you.
Sorry
This
to
is
take all
awesome.
your time.
You did great. That's awesome. That's fun. You heard it here. Anthony Baldino, baby.